Carter, you recognize for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate that. Thank you all for being here. This is extremely important. I've always said as we address climate change, we cannot leave rural America behind. We've got to make sure that we include it. I have the honor and privilege of representing a very rural area, and particularly in the western part of my district in South Georgia. We have a lot of agriculture, and it's extremely important to our economy. Number one economy and number one industry in the state of Georgia is agriculture. So very proud of that. But, the American farmer literally feeds the world. We have to remember that, and we have to make sure that we do everything we can. A lot of people take it for granted. You ask people a lot of times, where do you get your groceries from? They say from the grocery store. They don't understand where it comes from, and that's why I'm just such a great fan of the farmers, and particularly in our area. Precision agriculture. Ms. Owens, you're familiar with that? Okay, and that's certainly something over the last decade that we've really stressed. And I just wanted to ask you, do you think that prescription agriculture can be a way that we can bring down carbon emissions as well as save money for farmers?
That's a great question. Thank you, Congressman Carter. The answer is definitely yes. And I talked about data in my opening statement, and we are partnered with a platform called Eco Practices, which is part of Sustainable Environmental Consultants. And they are actually working on aggregating all of the different data points from farms, but bundling it in a way that the farmer can actually make sense of it and make really detailed decisions based off of it. So whether it's the data from their combine, from My John Deere, or the economic system that they use to track what's happening on their farm or how they're tracking yield. What we're working on now is actually how you use that precision ag information to project for the farmer as they adopt soil-friendly practices,
Sure.
How it actually contributes to their profitability over time and how it projects to help with their resilience related to climate change.
How important is broadband to rural areas and to precision agriculture?
Well, you would need broadband in order to have the farm have access to all the different tools that are available today.
So how can we help? Now, I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, and this is something we talk about, getting broadband to the rural areas. How, what can we do?
I think it would be interesting to have a policy that broadband is actually a requirement. I myself have always lived in a rural area. I have always had terrible internet, so I would love it if the committee would make a recommendation around broadband related to agriculture, because it would affect me as well.
Would it help you, Mr. Yoder?
Thank you for bringing up broadband. You bet it would, because all these new technologies that we're enjoying today, whether it's it's integrated with the machinery itself, it's all dependent on signals, either from internet or from satellites or from phone lines or whatever. It's absolutely crucial. The problem we have is lack of capacity. We're pretty good where I'm at right now, just out of Columbus, Ohio. But I talk to my friends out in the various spots. It's terrible.
It's awful in South Georgia. Let me tell you,
awful. But that's a big part. Data is a big part. Precision is big. We are precision ag dealers as well. And my goodness, I'll give you an example of how important data or precision is. We put a high-speed planting kit on our planter, and we literally saved 3 days of planting.
Absolutely.
And we this year, we had a minimum of 10 days. That was it that we had to plant, and we got ours planted.
All right, let me get to one other thing that I want to mention. Tier 4 engines. Are you familiar with that? The Tier 4 engine, the EPA has gone to, now they're requiring Tier 4 engines. We had a problem with this with our bar pilots, our harbor pilots. They couldn't actually build the boat the size they needed it to in order to fit the Tier 4 engines. Now I've got the farmers coming to me and saying, they're requiring me to have a Tier 4 engine. I can't buy wheels that'll get through the rows and the crops. And the thing about the Tier 4 engines is that the environmental benefit you get from going from a 3 to a 4 is just not as good as it was going from a 2 to a 3. And are any Ms. Owens or Mr. Yoder, any of y'all have any experience with that?
We experience it every day. We have the transition to Tier 4, which are fine. That's like a big giant catalytic converter. But with our Tier 4 semis and big tractor, you got to have the DEF, what's that, diesel emissions fluid or whatever.
Right.
And anyway, it's a pain in the rear end.
Sure it is. Well, thank y'all all. Ag is extremely important. I know that's why we're here. But just out of curiosity, y'all know what the number one forestry state in the nation is? It's the state of Georgia. Thank you very much, and I yield back, Madam Chair.
I've heard this. Next is Ms.